Welcome to the Housing Choice Voucher Program, also known as Section 8. Menard County Housing Authority is located 30 minutes north of Springfield in Petersburg, Illinois, and administers up to 909 Section 8 vouchers in 24 counties. Because our office is usually not in close proximity to the majority of our clients, you will never be required to come into our office. We will work with you online via email, fax, and over the phone. The project-based voucher program provides rental assistance to families so that they can live in a decent, safe, and sanitary home in a specific unit that is assisted. The Section 8 voucher is tied to the unit, not the family. The family living in the unit is benefiting from the voucher. The process is as follows: application, approval for subsidy, referral to property manager, assignment of unit, sign a lease, pay a deposit, and move in. Families living in project-based voucher units are eligible for portability after residing in the unit for 1 year. If you choose to port your voucher after 1 year, simply complete and return a portability request form to MCHA. MCHA will determine eligibility and analyze any potential financial burden to the housing agency. If approved, we will send your paperwork to the housing agency who covers the area you wish to go to. You will then be able to find an eligible unit in that area to use your voucher. From that point on, you will be with the other housing agency. You will no longer be with MCHA. If you fail to comply with the following requirements, your voucher can be subject to termination. Remember, the most important thing you can do is communicate. Keep us informed about any challenges or changes. The following regulations can be found in Chapter 24 of the Code of Federal Regulations or on your Statement of Family Responsibilities. You must supply any information requested by the Public Housing Agency or Department of Housing and Urban Development. This includes Social Security numbers, identity documentation, income, assets, expenses, citizenship declaration, and you must sign required documents including releases of information. All information must be true and complete. Falsifying information is considered fraud. You must comply with annual reexaminations. This means MCHA will request documentation on a yearly basis to reevaluate your income. For interim reexaminations, you must report changes immediately, including members moving out and persons moving in. MCHA will conduct rent changes throughout the year if you request a change. You are not required to report increases in income until your next annual reexamination. In Section 8, HQS is how MCHA grades the unit as being safe, decent, and sanitary. The subsidized unit is subject to initial and biennial or more inspections to ensure that the unit meets housing quality standards. An HQS breach caused by the family is the responsibility of the family to correct. Examples may include a broken window, disconnection of utilities, and any other damages to the unit beyond normal wear and tear. Ultimately, it is the responsibility of the landlord to enforce the lease. However, serious and/or repeated violations of your lease could result in termination of your voucher. Depending on the reason, your voucher could be subject to termination if you are evicted by the landlord. You must inform MCHA if you are planning to vacate a unit or if you are served with an eviction notice. You must also inform MCHA when you return possession of the unit, when you turn in keys, so that rent isn't paid beyond the time you vacate. You must use the assisted unit as your only residence. Only persons approved by MCHA are permitted to reside in the unit. You must notify MCHA and/or request approval before adding anyone as an occupant of the unit. You must also notify MCHA if a member vacates the unit. You may not sublease or let the unit. In other words, you cannot rent out your unit to someone else. You may not assign the lease or transfer the unit. You may engage in legal profit-making in your unit as long as the unit is still primarily used as your place of residence. Legal profit-making examples include babysitting, selling jewelry, makeup, candles, cookware, doing hair, etc. However, you must also follow state and local code. For example, babysitting a large quantity of children may require a license. Any income must be reported to MCHA prior to lease-up and an annual reexamination. A family or family member may be temporarily absent from the unit. MCHA policy defines temporary as no more than 180 days. It is always best to notify MCHA even if you expect an absence to be brief. You may have guests in your unit for a temporary time. MCHA policy defines temporary as 30 consecutive days or a total of 90 cumulative calendar days during any 12-month period. The assisted family cannot have any ownership or interest in the unit. Also, you may not rent from a parent, grandparent, child, grandchild, brother, or sister. The only exception would be if a disabled family required a reasonable accommodation where the only unit fitting that accommodation was owned by a family member. This program is funded by federal dollars. If you willfully or intentionally make false statements or provide false information to the housing agency to obtain assisted housing, you could face termination of your voucher, be required to pay back all rental assistance paid, be fined up to $10,000, face imprisonment up to 5 years, and/or be prohibited from receiving future assistance. Members of the household may not engage in drug-related criminal activity, violent criminal activity, or any other criminal activity or alcohol abuse in a way that threatens the health, safety, or right to peaceful enjoyment of other residents near your unit. While MCHA can only deny your application based on convictions, MCHA may decide to terminate your voucher for these reasons based on complaints, police reports, or other investigation methods. No family members may receive double subsidy while residing in an assisted unit. This means that a family member cannot be on the voucher but also on a voucher or a lease at another subsidized property or public housing unit. TTP, total tenant payment, is the maximum amount that the family is responsible to pay. TTP is figured by using the highest of 1, 30% of the family's monthly adjusted income, or 2, 10% of the family's monthly gross income. Every family will receive a utility allowance when MCHA calculates rent. MCHA will do an annual study to obtain these figures. If the difference of the TTP and the utility allowance is positive, that is the amount of rent you will pay. If it's negative, that is the amount of your URP. Examples: with a TTP of $300 and a utility allowance of $100, your rent would be $200. With a TTP of $50 and a utility allowance of $250, your utility reimbursement payment would be $200. With a TTP of $450 and a utility allowance of $200, your rent would be $250. After a unit has been approved by MCHA, you will be instructed to sign a lease with the landlord. The initial lease must be a minimum of 12 months. After that, MCHA has no requirements on the length of the lease. If no new lease is provided, MCHA assumes the lease will renew month to month. Read the lease before you sign it. You need to know if you are getting locked into a 12-month commitment or if you have the option to vacate with notice, and you need to know all of the rules and expectations of the landlord. A HUD document known as a tenancy addendum must be attached to the lease. If there's an issue in the lease that contradicts the tenancy addendum will override the lease. Also, if something is not covered in the lease, it will fall to the tenancy addendum as default. This is set up as a protection for you in the housing agency. A copy is provided in your packet for you to review. You will also be required to sign a statement of family responsibilities outlining program requirements. A copy of this is also provided. Disabled families may request a reasonable accommodation. The request form is in your packet. A family may need a reasonable accommodation to change a policy, practice, or procedure, or may need an accommodation to be able to use and enjoy their housing assistance. There must be a nexus or relationship from the disability to the reasonable accommodation. Fair housing is your right. It is unlawful to discriminate in housing based on these factors: race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, or handicap. Your packet includes a pamphlet with a complaint form you can use to file a complaint if you believe you have been a victim of discrimination. The Violence Against Women Act provides protections for victims of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, or stalking. This program is for men too, despite the name, but was designed to keep victims of such abuse safe from losing their housing assistance. Victims under VAWA are entitled to special privileges in order to keep them safe. Contact MCHA or refer to the pamphlet in your packet for more information. MCHA has been asked to encourage families with vouchers to seek housing outside of high poverty areas. Advantages of locating housing outside of high poverty census tracts include better schools, more job opportunities, lower crime rate, better public services, more shopping, and other amenities. See the pamphlet for more information. Here you will find the contact information for the Menard County Housing Authority. Your caseworker is Danielle Gerndt. You can call or text her direct line at 217-717-2433. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and visit our website at www.menardcha.org.